So in 2024, we have seen a lot of golf balls being released and we've reviewed a lot of them here on the Golfalot channel. However, today we've got a different kind of ball testing. So I'm here at Hooked where we do all of our indoor testing. I'm going to go in there and try out loads of different Titleist golf balls and get loads of data to talk through with you guys to try and see which might be the right golf ball for you. I'm going to head in there for an hour or so, get all the data, and then we'll head back to Golfalot HQ to talk it all through with you guys. This place is great if you want to go hit some balls, work on your golf. They've got foresight simulators and crazy golf upstairs, so it's really the perfect place for golfers to go. All right guys, so we're finished up now in Hooked, we're back and we're going to do a deep dive into the data for each of these golf balls. But before we do, if you've watched our previous videos, you know exactly what I'm going to say. In the last 28 days, we know that 92.8% of viewers who are watching our videos are not subscribed to our channel. It doesn't cost you anything, it's just one click and it helps support our channel massively. So if you're in that 92.8% who are not subscribed, please make sure you click that subscribe button. So in this video, I'm going to rank these golf ball models by the longest, the lowest flight, the one to avoid, and the best value for money. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video to hear my verdict on these golf balls. So each of these are new for 2024. We've got the Titleist AVX, the Tour Soft, Velocity, and TruFeel. Now each of those four models have very different characteristics and performance points, and each one varies in price, with the most expensive one being the AVX and the least expensive being the TruFeel. So in terms of how we actually did the testing, this was fully done indoors because we wanted to look at the data and get really granular into seeing how each of these balls could perform. So we tested these out using a driver, 7-iron, and a 50-yard pitch shot. Now the reason we did that is because that is exactly what you would do if you went to a Titleist ball fitting. So we were just trying to replicate that in the type of data that they would be seeing to fit you into one of these golf ball models. Now you might be a little bit surprised to see that the Pro V1 isn't featured here in the lineup. However, we did include the Pro V1 in testing. We were using that as more of a benchmark and something that we could compare each of the ball models to throughout this testing process. So in case you guys aren't familiar with each of the models in here, I'm just going to do a quick run through of each one and who Titleist are saying this ball might suit. So starting off with the AVX is the most expensive ball in this lineup, coming in with an RRP of £42 per dozen compared to the Pro V1 at £50. Now what you would expect to see with the AVX, this ball is designed to have a lower ball flight that gets you a little bit more distance and more greenside spin and control. In terms of any visual differences, if we take the AVX out the packet here, something that you can see straight away is that the dimple pattern is quite different to the Pro V1 ball. This pattern is meant to ensure that the AVX has a lower, more piercing ball flight. We've got a slightly more bold logo with the AVX because you've got the line above and below it, which essentially just acts as a putting aid for those people who like to see more of a line on their golf ball in the first place. Onto the second ball in the lineup, we've now got the Tour Soft. Now, as you might expect by the name, Titleist are claiming this is going to be an incredibly soft feeling golf ball. You're still going to see long distances off the tee, but lots of control around the greens. Okay, going on to any visual differences then with the golf ball, straight away we can see that the dimple pattern is closer to what we're seeing on the Pro V1, especially compared to the AVX. It's very different to that. However, one key difference that we're seeing straight away here is the logo is printed. It just looks a lot cheaper in the Tour Soft compared to the Pro V1. Now it does come in a lot cheaper with an RRP of £34 compared to £50, so that's where we're seeing one of the drop-off in price come in. We have also got another putting alignment here like we did with the AVX, but this design is a little bit different. It's kind of like a little T. It's not necessarily my favorite design. If I was looking for a putting aid, I would just want a straight line, so I'm not too convinced on this particularly, but for you as a golfer, you might like this as your putting aid. Up next is the Velocity. Now Titleist are saying this is for golfers wanting full throttle distance. So you're getting a very low, long game spin with maximum distance, but also still a high ball flight from these balls. Now, what's interesting about these, they're trying to make it that more kind of like fun, interesting golf ball. So there's some interesting colors that you can get with this. You can get white, you can get matte orange and green as well. So a little bit different to what we would normally see available for golf ball colors. In terms of the overall looks of the ball, it is very white compared to the Pro V1. Again, we've got that kind of like cheaper looking print on the logo, which I'm not a massive fan of, but coming in with an RRP of £28 for 12 golf balls, there will be some areas where we're compromising a little bit for that drop off in price, and the logo print is just one of those. However, we have got another different putting aid alignment over the logo. This one is a little bit simpler and a little bit more subtle than the previous two, so I would actually say that that is probably my favourite logo design in terms of this little putting alignment thing going on here. And finally, we've got the TruFeel. This has a very soft core, very soft cover, and just an overall very soft feel. It's the softest ball in this lineup. If we take a little look at it, we've got another different putting aid alignment on the ball here. Now, what is really interesting about the TruFeel is that you can get this in white, yellow, and matte red, which is definitely an interesting choice for a golf ball and not one that I think you typically see out on the golf course. Once again, we've got that slightly cheaper print for the logo, but this is the cheapest ball in the range here, coming in at £26 per dozen. So again, we're going to expect that slightly cheaper finish to it. So let's take a look into the data and see how each of these models performed. Starting off with driver and looking at the ball speed, there was a lot of consistency in the ball speeds. There wasn't too much of a difference. The only thing that I did notice there was that the TruFeel was slightly slower, which we'd maybe expect from being such a soft feeling golf ball. Going on to the spin, the velocity was the lowest spinning ball, which we would expect given how hard that ball is. And then we also had the AVX coming in second there, also just being a little bit lower than the other two models here. In terms of distances, now the longest distance that I was seeing was with the Velocity. Interestingly enough, the total distance that I was seeing with the Velocity golf ball was almost 10 yards further than I was getting with the Tour Soft. So a big difference there coming in from how hard the ball is and the amount of spin that we were seeing there. So straight away, what we're seeing is if you're looking purely for extra distance, especially with your driver, the Velocity golf ball could be a great one for you to test out. Now, the only other thing that I noticed in the data that is a little bit strange is looking at the maximum height. Now, the TruFeel ball got me the most height, which isn't actually what Titleist are claiming this golf ball is going to do. However, given how soft that ball is, that was kind of what I was expecting to see with that higher ball flight. So that just kind of shows you the importance of always testing these out yourself to see exactly what type of performance you are going to get from that golf ball. Going on to the 7-iron, now I did see a little bit of a difference with the ball speeds in that the AVX just went that little bit faster. And that also meant that the AVX was getting the most carry and the most distance. However, this was closely followed by both the Velocity and TruFeel models, all being within a few yards of each other. Now, another one of the reasons that we were maybe seeing some of the extra distance there was that the spin rates were different with those three models compared to what I was getting with the Tour Soft and the Pro V1 ball. So with the Pro V1 and the Tour Soft, I was seeing around 4,600 backspin. However, each of the other three models were coming in at a spin rate below 4,000. Meaning that you are getting a little bit extra distance if that's what you're looking for, but you might just be compromising a little bit on that stopping power around the greens and being able to spin the ball on your approach shots. So something just to point out from that mid-iron testing, I was really impressed with the performance of the TruFeel, specifically in terms of distance. Now, with it being such a soft ball and being the least expensive out of the lineup here, I honestly wasn't expecting it to be able to get those same distances that we're seeing with the rest of them. So to have that up there in the mix in terms of distance, I think is really impressive. And I think that a lot of people might just discount that golf ball because it is the least expensive, but clearly we're seeing that it does perform well when lined up against the other models here. So finally then, coming on to those short 50-yard pitch shots. Now, what we were really looking at here was the spin rates that we were getting, the types of control that we might see around the greens. So to give a little bit of context, I was recently fitted for the new Vokey SM10 wedges, and with some of those shorter chip/pitch shots, I was seeing an average spin rate of 3,500. Now, today in the testing, I was just using my normal pitching wedge, and what we found was that the Pro V1 ball was coming out with an average spin of around 4,000. Now, none of the golf balls in this set were able to get as much spin with those pitching wedge shots as the Pro V1 was getting. So going through the set, the spin rates I was seeing were 3,700 for the AVX, 3,500 for the Tour Soft, and 3,400 with the Velocity, which is kind of what I would expect to see going down here. And then we did have a little bit of a jump back up with the TruFeel, coming in at an average spin rate of 3,650, so a little bit higher, but again, none of them reaching the amount of spin I was seeing with the Pro V1. And then what we also saw from the spin rates were that the AVX and the TruFeel were the most consistent in terms of the spin, whereas the Velocity by far was the least consistent, which to be honest is what you would expect to see with that golf ball being so hard. It's going to be a lot harder to control the spin around the greens. All right, so coming on to a bit of a verdict with these golf balls. We're going to start off by deciding which one from the data is the longest golf ball. If the only thing that you are interested in is seeing some extra distance in your game, then the outright winner for this is the Velocity golf ball. The Velocity went the longest distance for both the 7-iron and the driver in terms of carry and total. So if all you're wanting is extra distance, the Velocity is definitely the winner here. However, it's a very hard feeling golf ball. There's quite a loud sound that comes with it, and in my opinion, it isn't the best feeling golf ball. But if all you want is distance, that is definitely the outright winner for that category. Then the golf ball that saw the lowest flight, we are going to say, is the AVX. Now, I will just caveat this by saying that the Velocity golf ball did have a lower spin rate than the AVX. However, the peak height that we were getting with the AVX was lower, and those spin rates were very, very close to each other in the first place. So if you're the type of golfer that feels as though they sometimes lose control of the ball and have it sending up into the sky, you might want to try out the AVX ball just to help give you a little bit more control of your ball flight. Then from the data and my own testing, there was one golf ball that I would say for my game I would definitely avoid. And that golf ball, surprisingly, is the Tour Soft. For me, this performed the lowest in the categories that it was claiming to be the highest performing golf ball. Titleist are claiming the Tour Soft is going to give you longer distance off the tee, increased spin into the greens, and an incredibly soft feel. However, when we look at the data, we can see that in each of those categories, the TruFeel golf ball actually outperformed the Tour Soft. So it's not necessarily that the Tour Soft is a bad ball or it performed really badly in each category. It's just that the TruFeel was performing that little bit better, and of course comes in with a much lower RRP. So if you're looking for a golf ball that is very soft, is going to give you longer distances and a good amount of control into the green, I'd actually say for you to try out the TruFeel instead of the Tour Soft, despite what Titleist are claiming this golf ball can do. And that nicely leads me on to the best value for money, which we are going to say is the TruFeel golf ball. Now, this is not just because it is the cheapest golf ball in the lineup. So the reason that we're putting the TruFeel as the best value for money is because if we look at each of the performance categories, although the TruFeel isn't necessarily coming out in the top position, it's only ever just that little bit behind the golf ball that is. So for example, in terms of distance, the TruFeel wasn't going the shortest ball at all. It was only a few yards behind our longest golf ball, the Velocity. The TruFeel had more spin than both the Velocity and the Tour Soft and was pretty much the same as the AVX, also being very consistent in terms of the amount of spin that I was getting with it. The only real downsides that I could see with the TruFeel were that it is a very, very soft feeling golf ball, which might not be the exact fit for your game. And of course, we have got that little difference in terms of the looks, with the logo being printed looking that little bit more cheap compared to the AVX and the Pro V1 ball. All right guys, that has been my video on the new Titleist golf balls for 2024. Definitely seen there that going for the most expensive golf ball isn't necessarily the best option, because each of these golf balls performs so differently in each of the different categories. So it really depends on what you are looking for as a golfer. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure to drop a like. And if you want to check out more on my thoughts about each of these golf balls, you can find my written reviews over on the Golfalot website. Thank you guys for watching, and subscribe for more.